we want to be mindful of that reality and faithful to fight those battles and to do those things well and to not be distracted by getting entangled in other people's battles. Greetings and welcome to the Larson Hicks Show. It's good to have you here on the show. Thanks for your patience with me. I haven't uploaded anything in a minute. The big reason is because of the new podcast that I have started with Rich Lusk. So it's kind of filled my little bit of time I allocate to this kind of thing every week. He's out of town this month with a lot of travel and stuff, so I've been able to carve out a little time here to record a quick video. I'm also going to be having a C.R. Wiley on the show next week. He's in town here in Huntsville. He serves as a visiting scholar to our church and comes out every other month or so and spends a week with us or so. And so we're doing an Ask Pastor Wiley Anything episode. So the church is coming up with a bunch of questions. So hopefully that'll be up on the podcast and the YouTube channel shortly. But in the meantime, I wanted to say a few more words about an exhortation I gave a couple weeks ago. And the gist, if you didn't listen to it, I'll put a link somewhere so you can go listen to it if you're so inclined. But the gist was stay in your lane, and the idea that each day has enough trouble of its own. You, as a parent or a husband or whatever you are, whatever your role is at your work, you really do have battles to fight. God has actually given you a specific assignment. He's strategically placed you in the roles in the organizations that He has you in to play a purpose, and so we want to be mindful of that reality and faithful to fight those battles and to do those things well and to not be distracted by getting entangled in other people's battles and other fights. And this isn't to say there aren't lots of other fights that are important fights that need to be fought, right? So it's important to make that distinction that there really are things that are worth fighting over. There's important things, problems to solve and errors to correct. But the question is, is it your fight? Like, is it the fight that that the commander has given you to fight, or does he have a strategic purpose for you elsewhere? So, that's the basic gist. You can go listen to it. It's only probably 7 or 8 minutes if you want to hear the whole thing, but that's the basic gist. And yeah, I had a lot of good feedback from it, and it's a real challenge, I think. And it depends on the stage of life. I happen to be in my church, that I'm sharing this message with, I know happen to be in a lot of the folks there are in a very similar phase of life than I am, which is busy career, lots of kids, teenagers, and just a lot of things keeping me occupied and things that I really need to focus on. And so yeah, it would be a huge. I would have to drop a ball, several balls to go engage in some new efforts or new fights. And it's hard for me to do. I'm somebody who kind of. I think about myself as running at higher RPMs. Like I'm happier and more productive when I've got a lot of things going on than when I've got few things going on. It's kind of harder for me personally to focus. So it's easy for me to get loaded up with too many things. And so that's part of it, is just don't pour out your strength and energy on stuff that's not actually what the commander, who is orchestrating the whole campaign, to keep that metaphor. Don't pour out your strength on things that so that you're unable to engage in the things that He actually has called you to. If you're a parent, you have a clear duty to fight the battles in your own home, right? Husband, wife, you have clear duties, responsibilities there. Employee at your company, if you're not faithful there, then you really don't have any business jumping in anywhere else. And which is part of why the qualifications for an elder are what they are, because it's saying, look, first we want to make sure that this is a man who is taking care of business at home, with his wife, with his kids, he's a good manager of his household, which is really talking also about business, right? Finances. So like those things need to be in place first, before you should be taking on more. And if you're not there, then focus on that, before you start trying to take on more. When I was reading the Proverbs earlier this week, I came across this passage in Proverbs 27 verse 23, which says, "Know well the condition of your flocks, and give attention to your herds. Riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure all generations?" Which I thought was great, and I think it applies to this here, that you need to know the condition of your flock. And you can't know that without going out and putting hands on the flock, actually putting your eyeballs on the flock, actually spending time with them. And so you need to, you can't just assume I'm doing really well. And for me, like I run a company. It's easy for me to go, it looks like the metrics are generally good. I assume everybody's doing their job, and is happy. I'm just going to kind of let it ride. That's a real temptation. And I have to constantly force myself to do the hard work of getting on the phone, sitting down, talking with the people that work for me, and really understanding where they're at, And when you do, you find out, oh gosh, there some issues have been developing, or some questions have been emerging that I could address. I should have addressed. That I hate that it's gone this long, that they haven't been able to get that solved. And you can very quickly, it doesn't take much time at all, in a business to have something develop into a really big problem that can really make a big impact and potentially kill your business. So it's a real important concept. You've got to know the condition of your flocks. You got to give attention to your herds. You can't just trust that they're okay because you counted them a couple months ago. And this is true in your home. You can't just assume that, well, all my kids are following the rules. Nobody's in open high rebellion. Fingers crossed. Let's hope that everything's going okay. No, you got to get down in there. You got to get down in there and spend time. And it's something that is a challenge for everybody. It's certainly a challenge for me in this day and age we live in. When they're little, I was talking to a dad earlier this week about the challenge when they're little, and when you've got lots of them. When you've got 3 or 4 kids, it becomes really easy. Like when parents of big families look at parents with, especially young parents with like one kid, and you can't help but kind of laugh, because they just dote on that kid. They spend so much time, so much attention. They overthink things. They've got all the different tools and all the different shenanigans that are out there on the market today to like just the gadgets and the stuff. And there's just so much time and energy spent like thinking about their schedule and their diet and blah, blah, blah. My wife and I just uncovered an old video of us with our firstborn on his birthday. And we were just his first birthday. And we were just cracking up about how much we were just doting on this little guy and fawning over him. And it's cute, but it's also funny. The funny thing that happens if you have a bunch fairly quickly, as we did, and as a lot of people in our community have, is before long, you kind of end up in the other ditch. You end up you're kind of just talking to a bunch of little heads that are down below you, and you're just kind of barking orders, and you're sort of, hurting them and corralling them, but you're not necessarily the danger. And we saw this with our like third, when he was little. At one point, he was kind of struggling with with being shy and emotional and different things. And we were like, this is weird. None of our kids have had trouble with this. And we kind of came to the realization that, I don't think we're giving them enough just one-on-one focused attention. So we read this book, How to Really Love Your Children. My wife was in a book study with some ladies from church and really enjoyed that book. We ended up reading it together. We might have read it together twice over the years, but with that kid, we realized we had just stopped getting down on his level, getting down. He's down here, he's way down at my knees. So I had to get down on my knees and get up close in his eyeballs and look at him in the eyeballs and say, "Hey bud, how's it going? What are you thinking? How's your day?" And just make that connection, right? And let him know I'm listening, I'm here. Little things like that, right? That it's just really easy to overlook. And then it can happen the same, when they're older, when they're teenagers. I've got 3 teenagers, and they're just out doing their thing. They're busy and they're hustling, and it's like, there's no news is good news, I hope. But my wife and I just this week, I was convicted of this by Scripture, and of this, man, I just got to make time for them more often than I am. We have dinner together, and we spend plenty of time together, but not enough focus time, one-on-one, or in the case of yesterday, I had lunch with my 2 boys. We just got lunch up here in the office and sat down and talked. And I said, "Hey, how are things going? Let's talk." And I brought up some topics that I wanted to hear their thoughts on. Holiness, personal holiness stuff, and just generally hey, how are you doing with these different things? And let's talk about it. Shared my own, strategies and my own philosophies on some of these things. Let them ask questions, and it's quick, but it was a great opportunity for me to just kind of know the condition, check the condition of my flocks, and give attention to the herd. And then my wife, had an experience today with one of the kids where she hadn't done that sort of thing in a minute, and just took a kid with her to run an errand, one of the older kids, and bought him a drink, and that kid just volunteered some kind of profound thoughts and questions, and that my wife was like, "Wow, that was cool." I would have loved, I've wanted to have that kind of conversation with them and haven't had the opportunity, but it just took the extra time to hey, this is my kid and I'm responsible for him, and I'm going to try to make some time. So anyway, I'm kind of wandering here a little bit, but trying to drive home the fact that that's what I'm talking about. I think in that exhortation is stay in your lane, stay focused on your own flock and the stuff that you're responsible for, whether it's your business or your family or more. If you're in a leadership position at your church, or if you're involved in other things, obviously you've got to apply the same passage. But the temptation to insert yourself in other stuff and fights on the internet and gossip within your family, that's a big thing. Is you hear about this, that, or the other problem that's in the family, and it's people you love. It's people that you care deeply about, but their problems have not been given to you to solve, right? And so I think that's the thing to try to keep in perspective is has God given me the responsibility to solve this problem? A. B. Should I take upon myself the responsibility to solve this problem? Sometimes that answer might be yes, but I think most often, if you're honest, it's probably a no. But the third question, and probably I think the most important question, is what role has God given me to play in this situation? What is my role? And is it friend? Is it family member? Cousin? Mother-in-law? Whatever? Brother-in-law? If so, what is being the best mother-in-law, best father, brother-in-law, best whatever friend, what does that look like? How do I do that well? And one of the things it should do is you should say, there is somebody whose responsibility it is to help you work through this problem. If you're a Christian, that is your pastor, that is your church. Point them to that resource, and then be the encouragement that the friend that wants to encourage and stand alongside and weep with those who are weeping and that kind of thing. Like, that may be the best role for you to play in that scenario. And obviously pray, right? But prayer, even, what I said in the exhortation is, like, sometimes there's stuff you hear about that really is concerning and and heavy, and the best, most faithful thing for you to do is to stop what you're doing, say a quick prayer for them, and then move on and try to forget about it at some level. To go, that's not my problem. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to remember to pray about it. But I don't have this responsibility to own that. And it actually is going to be, it could be a sin for me to spend too much time and energy on this and neglect the stuff that I'm supposed to be putting my energy and time into. So anyway, just kind of fleshing out that exhortation a little further. I hope that this was helpful, or at least thought provoking. I'd love questions or topics, or I kind of it's when there's some big idea that I'm wrestling with. I'm kind of a verbal processor, so I happen to have I have some friends from church who are in my house daily working on stuff, and so there's been several opportunities at the end of the day to like go down, sit down with those guys, and visit, and we solve all the world's problems. And I've got all these kids and older teenage boys who want to talk about stuff, so I find myself verbally processing or thinking through or teaching through different topics a lot during the day. But when it comes time to like, hey, should I upload something to YouTube or the podcast, it's like, I don't know what it is, that I don't have anything pressing. So send me your thoughts or your questions. Send me an email or leave a comment. My email address is just larsonhicks@gmail.com. So you're welcome to shoot me an email with a question or idea, and I'm happy to jump on here and try to provide some thoughts or answers. Anyway, good to have you on. Thanks for sticking with the show, even though it's been pretty low key for the last month or so. Like I said, stay tuned for next week. I'm on Tuesday. I'm interviewing Pastor C.R. Wiley, and on kind of an ask Pastor Wiley anything episode. I think that'll be fun. We're gonna go record at a pub here in town. So be looking for that. And like I said, shoot me an email or a comment if you have any questions or ideas that you'd like to talk about. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Cheers.